Hello everybody, it's Shane at Pulse Personal Training, and we're here with another fan-submitted question today. This one is, what is the If It Fits Your Macro diet all about? Or you see the abbreviation IIFYM. If you've never seen the abbreviation, it's all over the internet. It's a very popular phrase for a diet right now, and the idea behind it is that you're able to fit in to your diet whatever foods fit your needs for macronutrients. So I guess the first thing we should probably talk about is what a macronutrient is, and that's going to be broad descriptions of things like proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, breaking down food into those three categories and then basing your diet on the individual needs of those macronutrients in your body. So what is IIFYM all about? So if it fits your macronutrients, how do I establish a baseline? That's the thing. With an IIFYM approach, you better have a good baseline, and that means you need to know your daily caloric needs in terms of the number for your base metabolic rate, your BMR. How many calories does it take for your body just to exist every day? And then you need to figure out on top of that how much activity is costing you calories and how to make up the difference for that. So whether you're trying to gain or lose weight, you need to know those baseline numbers for calories so that you can do the math to make sure that if you're trying to lose weight that you're at a calorie deficit, or if you're trying to gain weight that you're eating over what you're burning every day. To establish a baseline, and I didn't write it down, you can go online and find what's called a Harris-Benedict calculator. The Harris-Benedict equation is an equation that will help you figure out those numbers, and there are plenty of calculators online. Harris-Benedict calculator. Once you find out what your baseline is in terms of calories, you have to figure out how you're going to distribute your macronutrients. And what I mean is the ratio of those three nutrients. How much of your diet is going to be comprised of proteins, how much of carbohydrates, and how much of fats. And that's not something I'm not going to get into in this video, because that is so in-depth and it's so individualized that to try and even cover it in this brief description is ridiculous. But what I will tell you is that it is a little bit different for everyone based on comfort, based on the foods that you know you eat, and based on how your body responds. So if you have more questions about how to figure out if you know your baseline calories and you want to have a discussion about figuring out your macronutrient needs, that's definitely something I can do. But beyond that, we'll move on. When you know your macronutrient needs, if we do the ratio work and you know the percentages that you're going to have to hit in your diet, are you committed to measuring your portions? An if it fits your macro diet will not work if you're not paying attention to measuring your portion sizes. You need to have hard measurable data for this to work. For any real successful weight loss or weight gain diet, you're going to want to know how many calories you think you need, and then you're going to want to know how many calories you're eating every day. So in order to do that, you have to ask yourself, am I committed to measuring my portions? And that's not just measuring 2 or 3 days of the diet and then eyeballing it the rest of the time. Do I have a food scale at the office? Do I food scale and then put all my food into containers? Am I weighing it all consistently pre or post cooked? You better be consistent, and you better be willing to measure everything, because if you're going to play around with your food sources and try and fit in things that may not be easily measured because of consistency, things that you eat repeatedly, if it fits your macros, is a diet that allows a lot of variability. So if you're going to eat all over the place, different foods and different meals, you better be measuring every time you do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess. You're not going to get your results. And that leads into my next point, the burden of choice. And when I put the burden of choice on here, I feel like if it fits your macros leaves open a lot of possibility, and that's why people choose it, is because there's a lot of foods that they want to keep in their diet. They don't want to cut them out. So eating for flavor over function is the small bullet point that I put there. And what I mean by that is, especially in a weight loss diet, and I guess it's true for weight gain either way, you could make choices that meet your needs on an if it fits your macros measurement scale that are still very poor choices in terms of your overall diet. I had an example the other day. I was at a party and someone had a bunch of watermelon cut up, and the watermelon was laid out, and I was talking to a gentleman about the carbohydrate issues, and he referred to the watermelon as being a much healthier choice rather than the cookies and crackers and stuff like that were up there that were available. And we had a discussion about whether or not what he said was true. Is the watermelon really healthier than those cookies if you're just talking about the approach to an if it fits your macros style diet? So I asked him this question. Here it was. Is if I have to have 40 grams of carbohydrates at this meal that I'm going to sit down to, I can either have 4 of those chocolate chip cookies that are this big and they're compressed little cookies, or I could probably have 5 or 8 slices of that watermelon triangle that are this big. And I'm going to get 40 carbohydrate grams from either one of those things. But which one of those two is going to leave me more full, more satisfied, and is probably going to provide more of a nutrient profile? The answer is obviously the watermelon. So when I say eating for flavor over function, with an if it fits your macro approach, you could be making macronutrient appropriate choices at meals, but you may be doing things that sabotage you in the long run. That watermelon would have kept me full a lot longer than those cookies, and if I had eaten the cookies, I might have been satisfied numerically on paper. But an hour and a half later, when I am starving between meals and I'm not supposed to be eating, or I'm somewhere at work where I can't eat, I'm going to look back on those cookies as maybe not the best choice, and if I learn from that mistake, next time I'm going to choose something to meet my macronutrients that also has a better overall effect for my health. In this case, it didn't satiate my hunger because I chose a very condensed source for carbohydrates. So the burden of choice is on you if you're doing an if it fits your macro approach. You need to know those things. You need to know if you're trying to gain weight. You know, dried fruits are a much better choice if you have to eat. Man, if you had to eat 150 carbs at a meal, I'm telling you, you don't want to sit down to plain white rice and have to eat 4 cups of cooked plain white rice versus maybe sitting down and having a bowl of Fruit Loops and some dried fruits to go with it. You look at the volume of food involved in what that meal took, and 4 cups of rice, the time alone and the volume, you're going to feel sick after eating that. So you could look at weight loss and weight gain and make poor choices and still meet your macronutrients. And that's what we're talking about in the second point. Hunger issues related to food volume. If you're making bad choices, either on the positive or negative side, you could be leaving yourself very hungry when you don't need to, or you could be stuffing yourself to the point of sickness because you're unwilling to choose a different source for carbohydrates, either because you perceive it to be more unhealthy or high GI or high in starch. You know, potatoes and stuff like that can be your friend if you're trying to gain weight. Next point, planning your day. If it fits your macros allows for a little bit more flexibility because of the fact that everything is eventually on the diet plan. You know, I can go to Chipotle if I'm on an if it fits your macros diet and probably find something on the menu, look at the nutrition facts, and then if I know I've got that one meal is going to be the meal I'm eating out at a restaurant that day, I can take that data after eating that meal because I measured it and I have the information. I can take that data home, look at how much I consumed at the restaurant when the choices were limited, and then I can plan the rest of my day to meet my needs before the day is over. So when I say there's more flexibility, that's to say if you get invited out to a meal, if you're going out at the office for lunch, if you have a birthday party that night, there's the ability to forecast ahead with what you're going to do and make changes to your day where maybe you don't eat as many carbohydrates in the morning because you know you're going to have something later. There's like I said, a birthday cake or something coming up later. Or you know you've had too many fats in the morning and as a result you eliminate those fats later in the day because you just know you've hit your number. You've hit your number. That's your macronutrient number. So that's how that works. Planning your day also allows for less prep work with an if it fits your macros diet. Since you don't have to have the same foods available all the time, there's less consistency. You're able to be more variable, which means you may not have to spend as much time prepping things and putting in food containers in the fridge and stuff like that. But if you're going out to restaurants and you're not standardizing your food choices or you're not standardizing your recipes, you are also running the risk of screwing up this measuring portions thing because it's just things like butter and oil that you're cooking with. You may not be thinking about how the kitchens you're eating at, different restaurants or at other people's houses, may not have the same macronutrient profiles as what you cook at home or what you're used to buying. So planning your day with IIFYM can be more variable. All right, this is a big one, and I know some people out here constantly blow past this next one. Macronutrients do not equal nutrition, and what I mean to say right there is just because you're hitting all of your macronutrient numbers, you're eating everything you need every day, and you're gaining or losing weight up or down in the direction you want. Cool for you, great job. Are you getting vitamins, minerals, and fiber? Are you choosing lower quality foods? You know, if I'm, I don't know what I'll pick on because anything I say, everybody's going to make fun of it, but like graham crackers. I'm not probably getting the best nutritional quality out of graham crackers if every time I sit down to meet my carbohydrate needs, the choice I make is graham crackers. If I sat down and had, you know, some broccoli, some sweet potatoes, some carrots and things like that, I can still meet those carbohydrate numbers through a more whole source of food that would provide the nutrients and the vitamins that come from that stuff versus, and I'm not saying that natural is better or any of those things. I'm just saying sometimes the choices that you're making may not be the most health conscious ones. Do you have any vegetables in your diet? IIFYM is usually code for I don't eat vegetables. And if you are avoiding vegetables and this is the lifestyle you choose because it's allowed you to manipulate that, you need to take a look at your overall health and wellness and think about your kidneys and your liver and your colon and your risks for cancer and stuff like that, because macronutrients do not equal nutrition. And if you're missing out on vitamins, minerals, and fiber and choosing crappy, low-quality foods, you may be missing out on vital parts of it. And then eventually, if you're lowering your immune system, compromising your ability to recover from workouts because of your poor food choices, you may regret it. It may catch up to you. This is a big point for if it fits your macros diet. It is not for beginners. This is my opinion. You may have started with IIFYM. You may have had great success, and you may be watching this video right now, and it may be something you choose to do, and you prove me wrong. And go to the comment section and tell me what an idiot I am if you pull it off. But I feel like if it fits your macros is difficult because you have to manage so much data. We talked about measuring your portions and establishing a baseline and how to figure out your macronutrients and stuff like that. Man, this is hard data. This is numbers and math and science. And if you're not willing to put in the footwork to track all of that stuff, you're probably going to have a hard time. And if you've never done measured eating or used an app to track your stuff or portioned out your food before, jumping into something like this right out of the gate can be so much information overload that it just blows people's mind and they stumble and trip on the path and then they give up on it. So I feel like for a beginner, there's a lot of information to take in. I already said there's lots of math. If you're, like I said, the Chipotle example over here for flexibility in your day sounds like a cool example, and you're like, oh, I'd love to be able to fit things in. But can you do the mental gymnastics required while standing in line to decide what it is you need to order and how you're going to make that recovery? Or does it add so much stress to your day when something like that happens that it's just not worth it? Because if every time something comes up, it throws your whole world into chaos, and you can't adapt because you're not good at mental math, and you can't manage the data because you're not able to measure the portions, it's going to drive you nuts trying to follow something like this. Again, if you're a beginner, that might be a good reason not to do it. And this third one right here, this goes way deep, deep, deep stuff. I don't think if it fits your macros allows people to address poor food relationships or underlying issues with their diet or why they may want to gain or lose weight. And that gets very individual, and it may mean something to you just the way I read that. And if it doesn't mean anything to you, that's great too. But there are a lot of people out there that will use the if it fits your macros diet to justify a lot of crappy behavior. Binge eating because they can fit the calories in, and then going without them because they have the mental power to restrict it. When they see the data presented, it becomes habitual to collect the data. They almost gamify the process of measuring their calories. Things like the apps that you use have these feedback systems and badges and rewards for logging your food and tracking your data. And these behaviors can become actually very addictive. And the game itself of tracking your macros can become the goal instead of you will lose sight of why you started, which may have been health management or losing some weight or adding some muscle or whatever it was. So when I say it doesn't address poor food relationships or the issues, there are a lot of things that drive people to want to change their body that don't actually have anything to do with health and wellness. And as a personal trainer, I'm sitting in this room and I get a chance to talk to people and hear what they've got going on, and often they don't even know what they're saying when I hear what they're saying. So I feel like if it fits your macros just on a very broad spectrum, gets used by a lot of people to mask over behaviors that might be addressed with a little sunshine antiseptic. If you had to shine a light and say, hey, could you cut these things out? You know, it might be worth talking about. But that gets pretty deep. If you have questions about that, I'd love to get into that. And then lastly, and after everything I just said, it may sound like I was about to have a negative, but let's wrap this up at the end. It still works. If it fits your macros, will still work. If you're trying to lose body fat, it will work. If you're trying to gain muscle, it will work. It says right here, can be used to great effect to alter body composition. And I wholeheartedly believe that, not just because I've experienced it myself and I've seen other people do it. It's math. It's math, man, and you may not like it. There are people that can lose weight eating Twinkies, and there are people that can gain weight eating salads. It's just a matter of how you're building those salads. Do you know that you're putting oil in those things? Are you measuring when you consume? Are you being mindful of how much stuff you put in? Because on an if it fits your macros diet, if you're a mathematician and you're a wizard with numbers and you have Excel spreadsheets for all of this and you do the calculations, you may have a huge amount of success, and the people around you may look at the foods you're eating and the way you're getting away with it, and they're stunned because you're fitting in things like cakes and pies and breads and things like that, that when you go out to a social event, you don't have to turn down ice cream. And they would say, I can't believe you're eating these things, but they don't see the math that you did earlier in the day and later in the day to adjust to fit those things in. If it fits your macros is eventually a way I've seen a lot of bodybuilders adapt after a life of competitive eating. And they try and find a way to get back into a social setting where they can participate in group meals and going to restaurants and stuff like that. It allows them to maintain the sanity of knowing that they have control over their behavior and control over their body and the way that it looks and their health and wellness. But when you go out somewhere, you don't have to be the guy that pulls out Tupperware in front of your family and eat like that. And you can just order off a menu without making a comment about how you need the vegetables on the side. And it eases the social pressure off the people around you. When they see you able to eat the same things they're eating, you may be surprised how it changes the behavior of the people around you. So it still works. It becomes a lifestyle for people. It becomes something that's actually very, very manageable as long as you're continuously tracking your data. The day you give up on measuring everything is the day that this is going to start to go south and you'll find yourself trying to track back. So, if it fits your macros, what is the If It Fits Your Macros diet all about? It's about tracking your macronutrients. Sorry about that. It's about keeping track of your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats. It's about maintaining those ratios in a way that allows you to move your body composition the direction you want. And it's about consistency. I would say it's about being able to be consistent in all of the applications that we just talked about. It's also about being able to fit in foods that you may not think about when you're on a diet, because if you're very dedicated to the math, you can get away with a lot of stuff. So, this was another fan-submitted question, which it's fun having these. I love shooting these videos. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you don't like the video, give me an angry face or a thumbs down, because I love the fact that you watched it either way. It's good to me. Be sure to share it if there's anything in here you liked. We'll do more of these. Leave a comment if you have any questions. If you'd like to see a video, be sure to send us a private message or something like that. This is Shane at Pulse Personal Training talking about the If It Fits Your Macros diet. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.